Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my most humble obeisances. We are continuing to study Sri Tattva-sandarbha, the book written by Srila Jiva Goswami, very great philosopher, great Vaishnava, one of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavana, one of the founders of our Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. As we said, he is known as Tattva-acharya, which means that he made a philosophical foundation to the whole Sampradaya. And it was a very complicated work. It was needed at that time. He was living it was kind of a passport of the Sampradaya, the particular philosophical principle. And as we said, it's for our Sampradaya, it's Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva, and also Shakti Parinama Vada. And also on the level of emotions, or the prayojana, final goal, what is the highest pinnacle of love, of realization we can get while taking part in the practices provided by the Sampradaya. And we quoted this verse from Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Charata datam nitya gupta vitam saprema namamritam adsudara apamaram yavitatara gaura Krishna janipyas tamaham prapade. Krishna's Kavaraja Goswami, he offers his very humble obeisances to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who gave the treasure nitya gupta vitam, which was hidden for a long time, and which is Svaprema Nama Amritam, which is the nectar of Prema, Svaprema, to himself, which is also in turn imbibed or infused in the holy name. And we know that in Kali Yuga, Yukudharma is the congregational chanting of the holy name. And there are different kinds of names, different kinds of Sankirtana. But Lord Chaitanya, he gave us Prema Nama Sankirtana. He gave us not only names which can give us liberation. Like there are 2 kinds of names. Hare Krishna. It's a proof. I think it was a proof that there are 2 kinds of names. First one is the Taraka Nama, and second one is Paraka Nama. Taraka comes from the dhatu, or Sanskrit verb tri taranea, which means to cross over, to become liberated. And Parakanama, para means not just to become liberated, but to go to the another reality, to the spiritual reality, to come next to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and to serve Him. So Lord Chaitanya, he gives not just the means of liberation, but he gives us the opportunity to achieve the love of Godhead. Apamaram vitatara Gaura Krishna janipyas tamaham prapade. And Gaura Krishna, the Gauranga Mahaprabhu, who is non different from Supreme Lord himself, he's given that rarest opportunity to everyone. Apamaram, Pamara, it's kind of a chandala, which means the outcast, which means most unqualified person according to the Vedic standards. But then, even to such persons, he gives this highest treasure of rarest love of Godhead. So that's the therefore we say that Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate. Lord Chaitanya, he is the most magnificent personality of Godhead, incarnation of Godhead. So and therefore Srila Jiva Goswami, he had to prove that on the basis of philosophy, tattva, and on the basis of rasa, which was given by Lord Chaitanya, is the highest, and also is an authoritative practice. It's not just something bogus, or kalpana means imagined or concocted. That this is authoritative practice. And that's why he took so many efforts to write this very huge book, Tattva-sandarbha, to establish every point of our philosophy on the basis of Shastras, Guru Sattva Shastras. That's the approach, traditional approach in the Vedic literatures, that we, whatever we say, we give pramanas or support or evidences from Guru, Sattva and Shastras. That's why Srila Jiva Goswami in his Mangala Charana, he composed Mangala Charana in a very, very unique way. He's he offers obeisances. Mangalam Acharati iti Mangala Charana. Mangala Charana means that which attracts the Mangala. Mangala means auspiciousness. He wants that his work or his intentions, his job was successful. But also he wants that those who are going to read this book also could accomplish the goal Jiva Goswami wants to establish or give to us. So that's why he's like we said that Jiva Goswami, he's six genius in one person, and his ability is yes, and his ability to express, like to write his book, is also fantastic. Like even in the Mangala Charana, he puts so many things, not just philosophical things. He puts so many subtle allusions or hints to us, and also he provides the ability of the readers to get most mercy of the from this book. So he's not an ordinary person, and just today we'll see his Mangala Charan. I think we'll cover today first 9 verses. I hope so, if Krishna wishes. And we'll see how Srila Jiva Goswami, he put so many things in just a few short verses, which are extremely important for us, which can be used also as a practical application in our own sadhana or spiritual life. So that's why it's not an ordinary Mangala Charana, as we could think. And therefore, as I said, the methodology of how to understand Sandarbhas, Jiva Goswami Sandarbhas, like I say it every time, that Gopinatha Prabhu, he said that only Goswami can understand the teachings of Goswami. And Goswami means one who had controlled his senses, but it's not just by our own forces or own strength. Goswami means that one who had surrendered completely to the Supreme Lord. And Krishna can control our senses. Krishna, he is Hrishikesha. Krishna can give us intelligence. Dadami buddhi yogam tam yenamam prayansite. He can help us to understand most complicated topics, which otherwise it would be impossible to understand. So that's why, as the most important part of our study of Sandarbhas is the prayer. Prayer to our Guru Maharaj, prayer to Supreme Lord, prayer to Srila Jiva Goswami, prayer to previous acharyas, especially prayer to Srila Prabhupada, as we said in the previous lecture, that whatever quality Srila Jiva Goswami had manifested in his life, same qualities manifested Srila Prabhupada. He followed the footsteps of the previous acharyas. Therefore, he was empowered. So that's why by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, we can get mercy of Srila Jiva Goswami. Not otherwise. We shouldn't jump over our founder Acharya. So that's why please let us pray to all of them to get just little drop of mercy, so that we could do it in the proper way. Not just academical study of Tattva-sandarbhas, not just as something which is necessary, or how to say, is assigned as a part of the curriculum for the Bhakti Vibhava or Bhakti Vedanta courses, but so that we could get some real spiritual benefit from this study. That's what I would like to give it to you. Although I'm most unqualified to speak from Shri Tattva-sandarbha, but from Jiva Goswami, but still on the strength of the mercy of my Guru Maharaj or Guru Parampara, maybe something auspicious and good will come from this study. So let's pray. Om Gana Timirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam yena bhutale svayam rupah kadamahyam dadati svapadanchikam vancha kalpatarobhisya kripa sindhubhya cha patitanam pavanebhya vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam karoti vachalam pangum lagate girim yakripatamaha bande shigurum dinataranam. And also pranama mantra to Srila Jiva Goswami. I sent it in our chat for Tattva-sandarbha study. Shiva Shirupa Charana Dvandva Raginam Vrajavasinam Shijivam Satatam Vande Mandeshwanam Dadayanam. I again and again offer my humble obeisances to Srila Jiva Goswami, who is very much attached to the lotus feet of Srila Rupa Goswami, his spiritual master, and who is the real Brijabasi, and who is always eager to give spiritual bliss to those who are lazy in the spiritual life. Okay, so this is Tattva-sandarbha, and in our previous session we covered, we described the structure of the Tattva-sandarbha, and also we covered the first verse of Shri Tattva-sandarbha, which is the quotation from Shrimad Bhagavatam 11.5.31. Krishna varnam tisha Krishnam sangopan gastra parshadam yajnaik sankirtana prayar yajantihi sumethasaha. That the most intelligent people in Kali Yuga, they worship the incarnation of God, of Krishna, who although is Krishna himself, he is not blackish in complexion, but he is has the complexion of Shemachat Harani, and who is accompanied by his associate, his weapons, and his companions. And the means of worship to him is Yajnaih Sankirtana Prayar, by the Sankirtana Yajna. And we said what is Sankirtana Yajna, when many people come together and they chant, but not just chant loudly holy name, but chant loudly in the heart, like with emotions, with Prema Nama Sankirtana. And that's why it's very important to study the books of Goswamis, to understand what was in the heart of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he was giving this Prema Nama Sankirtana. We had to chant in the same mood as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu intended us to do it. So that's why it's important to study Shastras. Krishna Namara Mahina Sathu Shastra Mukhi Haya Namara Madhuri Aichikahan Nahitumi. In Chaitanya Charitamrita said that we should hear from the Shastras and Sadhus about the glories of the holy name, about the proper mood, how to chant the holy name. And Namara Madhuri Aichikahan Nahitumi. Otherwise it's impossible to understand or experience the sweetness of the holy name. So that's why it's not just loud Sankirtana when they come together and they chant Hare Krishna like this. It should be from the heart. Atakshi Krishna Nam Adina Bhavet Grahyam Indriyaih Sivalmukhi Jihvada Svayam Vaspuratyada. In Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Rupa Goswami, he quotes this verse that Artaha, therefore, because holy name is completely spiritual, Shri Krishna Nam Adina Bhavet Grahyam Indriyaih. We cannot chant the holy name with our karmendriyas, our tongue. We cannot hear it with our jnanendriyas, our ears, and so on. No, it's impossible. It's completely transcendental. But Sivanmukhehi Jihvada Svayama Spuratyadah. Whenever one develops the seva umukha, which means the mood of service attitude, the devotion, then only holy name will manifest himself in the heart of such a person. And not only in the heart, also in the tongue. Like Srila Rupa Goswami, he writes this verse in the Vidaga Madhava in the very beginning. Tunde tandavani rachim vitonate tundavali labdhaye. Whenever I no jane chinitaki yabhiram ritaya krishneti varnadvai. I don't know how much sweetness is there in just 2 syllables, Krishna. Whenever I chant it, I want to have millions of tongues. And because I experience such a great sweetness. And whenever I hear it, whenever this holy name enters in my ears, I want to have millions of ears. And Chetaprangini Sangini Vijayade Sarvendriyanam Kritir. And whenever it enters into my heart, all the activities of the senses becomes stunned. I just cannot pay attention to anything. Just holy name, Krishna, 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 like this. And this is the real fruit of chanting of the holy name. And basically, Yajna Sankirtana Prayar, as we said, to worship Lord Chaitanya means to worship in that way, with the holy name which had agreed to appear in our tongue. So that's the first verse of Tattva-sandarbha. And then Srila Jiva Goswami, he paraphrases the same verse in his own compiled verse in the second part. But before reading that, I would like to say that what is the Mangalacharana? As we said, that Mangalacharana means the opening of the book. Few verses which should bring auspiciousness in our life, so that we could accomplish the goal. And also, so therefore, in Chaitanya Charitamrita it is said, like we have Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi 122, where Krishnas Kaviraj Goswami, he says, what are the 3 main goals of Mangalacharana? And he says, say Mangalacharana haya trividha prakara vastu nirdesha ashirvada namaskara. Mangalacharana has 3 goals. First one is Vastu Nirdesha. Vastu Nirdesha means to point what is the topic of the book, what this book is about. Then Ashirvada, to offer the blessings to those who are going to read this book. And also Namaskara. Namaskara means to offer obeisances to the superiors, Supreme Lord and his devotees, spiritual masters, and so on. So that's why those 3 goals, they are like the Jiva Goswami's Mangalacharana has all those 3 goals. And definitely first verse of Mangalacharana is Vastu Nirdesha. Vastu Nirdesha means who is the object of the book. And he says that the object of the book is the Bhagavan. But not just Bhagavan, but Bhagavan Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Bhagavan, the most merciful manifestation of Krishna, Krishna Prema Pradayate, who is giving the love to himself to everyone. So that's why it's a unique manifestation of the Lord. And also, as we say that is part of the Ashirvada. Ashirvada means that Yajna Sankirtana Prayar Yajanti Hisumethasaha. If you understand that, the greatness of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and if you become thus Sumethasaha, which means highly intelligent, and you start worshipping him by the Sankirtana Yajna, that will bring auspiciousness in your life. This is the blessings which Jiva Goswami gives to all those who are reading his book. Just, you see, just first verse, as we said that this verse is from Shrimad Bhagavatam, which also indicates that the topic of Tattva-sandarbha is Shrimad Bhagavatam. Then Bhagavan means Supreme Lord. Bhagavan means his devotees. You'll see in the Tattva-sandarbha. Bhagavat-sandarbha, the second one, how Srila Jiva Goswami, he explains the qualities of Krishna's Nitya Parshadas. Then in the Bhakti-sandarbha, he explains the qualities of the devotees. He explains what is the devotional service, what are the relationships between Krishna and his devotees. So that's why first verse is just so many important things are there. And that's the genius of Srila Jiva Goswami. He could have chosen any verse from Śrīmad Bhagavatam to say that, yes, this is the book about Śrīmad Bhagavatam, just to make a connection. He could have chosen any verse from Śrīmad Bhagavatam about Krishna, hinting that Krishna is the main object of the Bhagavata-sandarbha. But then he chosen verse about not just Krishna, about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And also, as we said, we read from Sarvajna that Srila Jiva Goswami, by speaking about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he makes an affiliation to Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, that I am the follower of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who had founded the many lines of disciple succession by giving instructions to his followers, his like six Goswamis of Vrindavans and his associates. In this way is the whole Sampradaya, which means the system of transmitting the spiritual knowledge from disciple, from guru to disciple, so that they could reproduce the same experience which Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu manifested in this world, same prema which he himself wanted to taste, to experience. We can reproduce the same prema by following the Sampradaya. But as we said, Srila Jiva Goswami, he doesn't make it openly. He just hinting that, yes, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is the founder of the Sampradaya. But actually he could have chosen to just offer some verse glorifying Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But then he's not doing that either. He's taken verse from Śrīmad Bhagavatam to prove that Śrīmad Bhagavatam says that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not just some ordinary person. He's the avatar of the Lord of Krishna, which is predicted in Śrīmad Bhagavatam, avatar for the Kali Yuga, the very age we are living in right now. So it means that he is our Ishtadevata, or worshipable deity. So that's why so many things are packed in just one first verse of Shri Tattva-sandarbha. And it's important because first verse is like the whatever we start from, it will continue later on. So he's just making very strong foundation what he is going to speak further. And then because so many things are there in just one first verse, he paraphrases it in the second verse. Antah Krishnam Bahir Gauram Darshitanga Devai Bhavam Kalau Sankirtana Dhyayik Smach Krishna Chaitanya Ma Shritaha. Blackish within, but golden without. He shows all his opulences, beginning with his own bodily features. In this age of Kali, by Sankirtana and other ways of devotion, we have taken shelter of Sri Krishna Chaitanya. So, in the commentary we see that like Krishna Varnam, which means internally Krishna, Antah Krishnam and Tvisha Krishnam, and outwardly appearing golden, Bahir Gauran. So Krishna Varnam means Antah Krishnam, and Tvisha Krishnam means Bahir Gauram. And why Gaura in the just a second. Yes, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi 3:49, Krishna Kaviraj Goswami, he quotes one verse from Mahabharata, Danadharma Vishnu Sahasranama Stotra. Vishnu Sahasranama is one of the most important parts of Mahabharata. Srila Sanatana Goswami, he says that Mahabharata, later on we'll see in Tattva-sandarbha also, Why is it so important? Mahat-tattvat bharatatvacha. Because Mahat is very great, and also Bharat. Bhara means the burden or the heavy weight. It's very, very heavy. And why? He says because of 3 parts which are there in Mahabharata. First one is definitely Bhagavad Gita, which was spoken by Supreme Lord Krishna himself. And the second part, which is also very, very heavy in Mahabharata, it's the Narayaniya. It's one of the very nice description about Krishna, his qualities and so on. And then the third part is Vishnu Sahasranama Stotram, the 1,000 names of Vishnu, of Lord Vishnu. Because it's directly connected to the Supreme Lord, these are most important parts of Mahabharata. So that's why there is one very important verse in the Vishnu Sahasranama Stotra from Mahabharata. Swarna varna he mango varangaschandanangaji sanyasa krichama shanto nishtha shanti parayanaha. In his earthly pastimes, he appears as a householder with a golden complexion. His limbs are beautiful, and his body, smeared with the pulp of sandalwood, seems like molten gold. In his later pastimes, he accepts the sannyasa order, and he is equiposed and peaceful. He is the highest abode of peace and devotion, for he silences the impersonalists, non-devotees. Baldev Pushni, in his commentary, he quotes from the Vedic, from Mundaka Upanishad 3.1.3. Yata pashyate rukma varnam kartaram isham purusham brahma yunim. Rukma varnam kartaram isham refers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead as having a complexion with the color of molten gold. Purusham means the Supreme Lord, and Brahma Yunim indicates that he is also the Supreme Brahman. These evidences too proves that Lord Chaitanya is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Another meaning of the description of the Lord as having a golden hue is that Lord Chaitanya's personality is as fascinating as gold is attractive. Wow! Also, very important things that everybody wants to have gold, because it's very beautiful and also it's very valuable. In the same way, golden avatara, golden person, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is very attractive and he is very valuable. Like his association is very precious. So, and this verse says that Lord Chaitanya, he was a householder, and we know that he was first Nimaya Pandit, then he's married with first Lakshmi Priya, then Vishnu Priya, and then he was living in married life, and then he had taken sannyasa from Keshava Bharati Maharaj. So everything is predicted in the scriptures. Everything matches to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this is the second verse which Jiva Goswami, he says, he clarifies. He proves that this verse speaks about Lord Chaitanya not as some saintly person, but to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then at the very end, in Sarva-samadhini, he says something very important. Tadevam sarvam avadharyapi paramo krishnarthena tamava stauti antah krishnam ityadina. That to further clarify, which was expressed in the opening verse, the author praises the same Lord with the sublime ideas found in the verse beginning, Antah Krishnam. And then he says, Darshatam cha etat. The same ideas were also expressed by Parama Vidvacharomanina Shri Sarvajna Bhattacharya, by the Shri Sarvajna Bhattacharya, who was the greatest of all the learned men. And then he quotes his verse, which is the verse which is written by Sarvajna Bhattacharya. This is Chaitanya Chandrodaya Nataka 6:43. This is the book written by Sarvajna Bhattacharya. Kalannashtam bhakti yogam nijam yah pradushkartum Krishna Chaitanya Nama Avirbhutastasya Padaravinde Gadham Liyatam Chitta Bringaha. Let the honeybee of my consciousness take shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has now appeared as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to teach the ancient system of devotional service offered to himself, a system almost lost by the influence of time. So this is the verse which was spoken by Sarvajna Bhattacharya, and it's important. It's important because somebody can say that yes, those Gaudiya Vaishnavas, they are so sentimental that they made some, yes, great saint, without any doubt, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but they made him the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then they just compiled some shastras, they gave some their own explanations of the shastras to prove that he is the Supreme Lord. But then they can say that we just have corrupted understanding of shastras by which sentimentally we made Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Supreme Personality of Godhead. But real scholars, real pandits, they would never accept this. And then Jiva Goswami, he brings an example of real scholar, real pandit, Sarvajna Bhattacharya. He was not just some ordinary person. He was the one of the followers of Navanyaya schools of philosophy, which was founded by Gangesha Upadhyaya before Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Gangesha Upadhyaya, he founded this Navanyaya school of philosophy. In his book Tattva-sandarbha, he corrected, which is his polemics with the Advaita with the followers of Advaita, impersonalists, Advaita Vada. He said that yes, like Advaita Vadis, they criticize Nyaya philosophy, Nyaya darshan. And then he said, yes, you rightly do that, because in Nyaya there are some faults. And he himself found in Tattva-sandarbha many faults of Nyaya philosophy. But then he corrected all those faults in his school of philosophy, Navya Nyaya, which basically is the most accepted in whole Indian philosophy. Like he speaks about epistemology. It's very developed arguments how to understand the meaning of the shastras. So Sarvajna Bhattacharya, he was staying in Bengal, and then there he had learned all the Navya Nyaya, and he started to teach Navya Nyaya in Bengal. And therefore, Maharaja Prataparudra, he invited him to come to Jagannath Puri, to become his Kula Guru, or the like court pandit, how to say, one who is the main teacher in whole Jagannath Puri. And Sarvajna Bhattacharya, he was teaching Navya Nyaya, he was teaching Mayavadi philosophy, he was teaching many Mayavadi sannyasis. So he was like the professor of the Nyaya, and nobody could criticize him that he is not a learning person. And then we read in Chaitanya Charitamrita how Sarvajna Bhattacharya, he met with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for 7 continuous days. He was speaking Vedanta to Lord Chaitanya, and then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he refuted all his arguments. And then Sarvajna Bhattacharya, he became a devotee of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He accepted him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And nobody can blame him that he did it just sentimentally. He was a great scholar, and therefore his words are very heavy, how to say. It's a very strong pramana that such a great scholar who was unbiased, how to say, he wasn't kind of part of the sampradaya. He accepted Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that's why Srila Samasini, Srila Jiva Goswami, he brings his evidence, because he was a great scholar. Not just Shastras, but Shastras and Sadhus also. They both prove that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not just some ordinary saint. And then in the third verse, it's also very, very important. As we see that Srila Jiva Goswami, he makes his arguments one by one. Like he said that he hinted that the topic of Sandarbhas is Srimad Bhagavatam, that the goal of Srimad Bhagavatam and Sandarbhas is Bhagavan, not just Bhagavan, but Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Bhagavan, who gave the rarest love of Godhead, and who is the Ishta Devata for all the living entities in Kali Yuga. And then in the third verse, he speaks, is also part of the Mangala Charana, and he speaks about Ashirvada and Namaskara. Both. Ashirvada means giving blessings, and Namaskara offering obeisances. The third verse. Jetam Mathura Bhumau Shilarupa Sanatanau Yau Vilekhayatas Tattvam Nyapakau Pustikam. All glories to Shila Rupa and Shila Sanatana in the land of Mathura. To make this truth properly understood, they are inspiring me to write this book. And this is also, every word is like packed to so many meanings. Jaitam Mathura Bhumau. Shila Rupa Sanatana, Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, they are Mathura Bhumau. Mathura Bhuma means they are the kings, how to say, the rulers of Mathura. Wow, how to understand this? And we know that Krishna, he is the Madhuresha, one who is ruling Mathura. But how we can say that Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, they are ruling Mathura, they are famous in Mathura. Practically they are most important in Mathura. Why not Krishna? Because they are such a great devotees of Supreme Lord, that Krishna, he agrees to subordinate himself, to become conquered by their love. And then it is said that Shri Rupa Sanatana now, that Shri Baldevita Pushna, just a second, in his commentary, he says that Mathura Bhumau iti tatra tayor adhyakshata vyajyate, that they are those who are in charge of everything which is going on in Mathura. And most important thing which should be going on in Vrindavan and Mathura is devotional service. They are the guardians of bhakti, of pure bhakti. Adhyaksha means one who takes care so that everything would be nice. And like so many deviations could enter into our spiritual practice. But Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, they had established the ideal, how to say, the standard of what is pure and what is impure. So that's why they are very, very important in Vrindavan. Everyone who wants to practice pure devotional service, he should follow the footsteps of Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. And then he says that Jatir atratat ittara sarvasat vrindotkarsha vachanat. And he says that because they are most important, all other Vaishnavas, they take shelter to Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. And that's why by offering obeisances to Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, automatically we offer obeisances to all the Vaishnavas, all the great pure Vaishnavas, who are also following pure devotional service in Vrindavan. Why? Because we want also to follow pure devotional service, not just some Mishra Bhakti. And then, so that's why he says that by two things. First, Namaskara. He himself offers obeisances to Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. And by offering obeisances to them, he offers obeisances to all the Vaishnavas, or pure Vaishnavas, which are living in Vrindavan, which are the followers of Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. And then Ashirvada means that he invites us also to do the same, to offer obeisances to Rupa and Sanatana Goswami and to all the Vaishnavas. Because he says that if you do that, you will get their blessings. And bhakti comes only by the mercy. Anukarena Krishna Anu Shilanam. It's not just Krishna Shilanam, it's Anu. Anu means that bhakti descends from the spiritual world. It enters into our heart. Like Jiva Goswami, he says in the Bhakti Rasa, his commentary to Anibilasha Shanyam verse, he says, Tat atra srupa shakti vritti rupat aprakritam api tatra avirbha kayena vacha manasa tatra avirbhava. He says that although the bhakti is the spiritual energy, but it enters into our consciousness, into our words, our body, our mind, and it spiritualizes them, like iron. Piece of iron. If you put it in the fire, it becomes fiery. In the same way, bhakti is the function of the spiritual energy. Bhakti comes by mercy, and the mercy, Krishna himself, he arranges that his mercy comes to the mercy of his devotees. Srila Jiva Goswami in the Tattva-sandarbha, he establishes it very, very nicely that the devotees, they are the salesmen, how to say, or the messengers of Krishna. They are carrying this mercy of Supreme Lord to give it to the conditioned living entities, to help them to start practicing pure bhakti. That's why in Madhurya Kadambini, the very first Pradhama Amrishtihi, in the first chapter, Srila Vishnath Chakravarti Thakur also, he establishes that it's by the mercy of devotees we can start practicing pure devotional service. Bhakti is svatantra, independent, but it becomes dependent on the mercy of pure devotees. So that's why if we want to practice pure devotional service, we need mercy. Mercy of whom? Mercy of Rupa, Sanatana Goswami and their followers. In this way, Srila Jiva Goswami, he gives us blessings. If you do that, you will get the mercy and you will get the pure devotion. And this is the most precious things which can happen in our life, to start practicing pure devotional service. And then also, so this is both Ashirvada and Namaskara. And then he says very important things. Яо великая статвам гьяпакау пуштикам имам. He gives his own experience that by their mercy he understood tattva. Tattva, not just some original tattva, but tattva which is the highest understanding of the supreme reality of who is Krishna. And then he had Yau Velikayata Statvam Gyapakau. They become Tattva Gyapaka. Gyapaka means Gnya. Verse means to know. And Gyapaka means, it's causative verse, means one who makes somebody to know, forces somebody to know, like allows somebody to know. So Tattva Gyapaka means that they have given me the knowledge. So there's the answer to the question which one devotee asked like in the very first session, how Jiva Goswami he wrote this book. First, this book manifested in his heart as tattva, and that happened by the mercy of Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. And then they Yau Velikayata Tattvam Pushtikam Imam. They asked me to describe the same tattva I understood in my book. And then he says, Jayatam. Jayatam means the glory to them. But Jaya also means may they be victorious. Or in other words, Gopinath writes, may their super excellence prevail. Like, what means that they become victorious? Like, it's also connected to the pranama mantra which we are reading to Srila Jiva Goswami. Mandesh Ananda Dayanam. That he is the one who is trying to give Ananda to those who are lazy in the spiritual life. So that's why Jaya means victory. And it comes from the verse Jaya. Which kind of victory? We as spiritual conditioned living entities, we don't want to go to Krishna. And Krishna, he never forces living entities. It is said in the Katha Upanishad, Nitya Nityanam Chetanash Chetananam Eko Bahunam Yavidat Hatikaman. He is the one eternal amongst many internals, living entities. He is Chetanash Chetananam. He is the conscious amongst all many conscious living entities. And Eko Bahunam Yavidat Hatikaman. He is one who is always fulfills the desires of living entities. So he never forces somebody to worship him. He just follows their desires. Therefore, Krishna, he never violates the desires of the living entities. And but devotees of Krishna, they do that. They inspire living entities to turn their faces to Krishna. They preach about the glories of devotional service. They share their realizations of their happiness in relationship with Krishna, with those living entities. And that becomes the impetus or the desire. They start desiring to do the same, to experience the same happiness. They inspire living entities. So that's why we don't want to become devotees. But they pray for us, they give us mercy, they give us intelligence, they force us in some way. And therefore, they help us to become devotees. And this is the very hard task. Like Srila used to say that we should give gallons of blood in order to take one living entity to the spiritual world. So it's a very hard task. And Jayatam or Jaya means the victory. It indicates that Jiva Goswami, he says, let's Rupa and Sanatana Goswamis and their followers hard task to take living entities from this material world, to turn them to Krishna and to bring them to the spiritual world. Let that hard task will become victories. Let they be successful in their humble dance. Like in one pranama mantra to Srila Sanatana Goswami, I think it's in Raghunath Das Goswami, Vilapa Kusumanjali, he says that Apamam yo Krishna. Anyway, he says that I didn't want to become a devotee of Krishna. But then Srila Sanatana Goswami, he forcibly gave me the nectar of pure devotional service. That's why I'm very grateful to him. So this is the work of our previous acharyas, of the devotees. They want to help us in our spiritual life. And this is a very hard task. Therefore, Jaitam, Jiva Goswami, he says, let their hard task to help us be successful and victorious. Wow! Basically, he gives Ashirvada, he prays for all of us, so that we could get the same mercy Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wants to give us. Svaprema Namamritam, this pure holy name. Wow! You see, so many, just one verse and so many important meanings. Not just philosophical meanings, but on the level of compassion, of tattva, of love. So much love is there in the words of Srila Jiva Goswami. And then he says, also a very important verse, fourth verse, Kopitad bandhavo bharto dakshina dvijavam shajaha vivicha vyarikad grandham likhitat vridha vaishnavaihe. One friend of theirs, of who? Of Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, a Bharta scholar from a family of South Indian Brahmanas, compiled this book after carefully studying the writings of venerable Vaishnavas. Wow, it's also part of the strategy of Jiva Goswami, so that his book would be accepted by different kinds of living entities. Like he says, like we said, that he never openly openly says that Lord Chaitanya, he is the founder of Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. He hints on that, but he's not just saying that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he said this, that. He's referring to Shastras mostly, so that nobody could criticize him that he is sectarian, that he is just following one particular opinion of some great saint, which is not absolute. So therefore he quotes the absolute pramana, which is the Shastra pramana. And then, but also he quotes the Shastras according to how it was interpreted by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he never eclipses Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And this is the strategy he uses in Sandarbha, so that different living entities from different parties, different opposite views, they could accept his teachings, just in an unbiased way. So he understands that not everybody will accept some kind of sectarian teachings. So therefore he wants to broaden the audience who can get most of the what he written in his book. So, and then part of this strategy, because we know that Srila Jiva Goswami, he was coming from the originally he was the son of the Anupama. Anupama, he was one of the brothers of Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. And originally they were from the Sarasvata Brahmana family, which is the very, very high Brahman family. But then they were forced to serve the Muslim government, Nawab Hussain Shah, and because of that they lost their authority. And Srila Jiva Goswami, he understood that at that time he was living, this jati, or external consideration, was still very important. And that's why if he says that I wrote this book, not everybody would accept it. Oh, okay, book written by some foreign person. What is the use of reading this book? So that's why, although he said that great devotees like Rupa, Sanatana Goswami, and somebody could say, okay, maybe they are great devotees, but they are not brahmanas, like they are not, they are outcasts according to the external consideration of varnashram dharma. So therefore, not everybody would accept Jiva Goswami's teachings. And therefore, what he does in the 4th verse, he says that there was one person, Tat-bandhavo, who was very close to them, who had, we know that Rupa Sanatana, they are senior Vaishnavas. But then Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who was originally from the family of from Shri Sampradaya. His father was Krishna. Krishna, forgot. Anyway, he was from the family of the Pujaris of Lord Ranganatha from Srirangam. This is Shri Sampradaya, which is most authoritative Sampradaya in most spread in whole India. I'm sorry? Anyway, I'm sorry, devotees. So he says that Venkatapata, yes, thank you, Prabhu, yes. I was trying to find it. Venkatapata, Tirumala Bhatta, and Prabhupada Saraswati, that was the family of Gopal Bhatta Goswami. Thank you. I just forgot it. So, Venkatapata, who was one of the pujaris of Lord Ranganatha, which means the very, very high Brahmana family. And he was close friend of Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. He was taking them as the authorities. So that's very important. And then he says that Gopal Bhatta Goswami, Dakshina Dvijavamsha Jaha. He was born in the Dakshina, means South India, Dvijavamsha, Brahmanical Vamsha or family of Dvija, Brahmanas. Yeah? And Vichya Vyarikad Grantham. And he wrote the original book. Actually, that book which is Jiva Goswami wants to present to us. He wrote this book. likitat vritha vaishnavaih, according to the Vritha Vaishnava. Vritha Vaishnava means previous authorities. And in the commentary in Sarvajna, Jiva Goswami says, Koppi iti Vritha Vaishnavaih, Shirmanunja Madhavacharya Shidhara Swami Adibhih Lyal Likitam, Tasmat Udhritya It Artaha. Anena Svaka Pola Kalpitatvam Cha Nirastam. He says that who are those Vritha Vaishnavas, that great Vaishnavas of the past? Is the authorities like Ramanujacharya, Madhavacharya, Shidhara Swami, and many others. So they are authorities according to the Vedic Darshana. They nobody would say that they are wrong. This is the culture, this Vedic culture. And we know that like in Madhva Sampradaya, Shri Sampradaya, so many Brahmanas are, so many great Pandits are. And all of them, they accept the authority of Madhavacharya, Ramanujacharya, Shidhara Swami, who is or the original commentator on Srimad Bhagavatam. And Jiva Goswami, he says that Gopala Bhatta Swami, who was the great scholar, great Brahmana, authority Brahmana, not corrupted Brahmana, but a real Brahmana, from the highest family of the pujaris of Lord Ranganatha and Shri Sampradaya, he wrote the book according to the teachings of previous acharyas. So that's why he says that Anena Svaka Pol Kalpitatvam Cha Nirastam. He says that the book which you are going to read is authoritative book, and it's not just something imaginary that he himself composed this book. Because let's say somebody who is fallen wrote some book. What is the use of reading this book? He says, no, I didn't read this book. Gopal Bhatta Swami, he wrote the book. And that's why he gave the authorship of his book to Srila Gopala Bhatta Swami. And then he says, in the 5th verse, Tasya jam grandhana lekham granta vikranta kanditam paryalochya paryayam kritva likhati jivakaha. That first rendition of this book was a rough draft, with some parts in topical order, others not, and some in only suggestive fragments. And so an insignificant jiva has carefully gone over the manuscript and rewritten it in a more systematic form. So he says that actually we know that Jiva Goswami, he wrote this Tattva-sandarbhas, but he gives the authorship to Gopala Bhatta Swami. Because if he would say that this is my book, not everybody would accept it. He says that the Gopala Bhatta Swami's book. But then the question arises, what was Jiva Goswami's job? What he did? If he says that this is not my book. He says that the book of Gopala Bhatta Swami, something was arranged properly. Something was just some kind of draft. Something was missing. And then he just rewritten it in a systematic way. That was his job. He was an editor of the book, not the author of the book. That's why he wants that everybody whose consideration of jati or Brahmanical qualification would accept his book. In this way, he broadens the audience of his book. And the same was done by Srila Sanatana Goswami. We read in his Hari Bhakti Vilasa. He says that actually this book was written by Gopala Bhatta Goswami. And then I just edited this book. Same way, like Sandarbhas is the Tattva, is the Darshan, is the Darshan book of Darshan, which means that the foundation of the whole philosophy. And then Hari Bhakti Vilasa is the Smriti Shastra, which means the regular duties of the Vaishnavas. What we should do. It's very important book, because otherwise if we have this Agama Shastras, Vaikanasa Agama Pancharatrika Agama Shastras, and this is the standard of the Sampradaya, that everything should be regulated according to Shastras, not just something imaginary. And therefore, so many smart Brahmins are there. And Hari Bhakti Vilasa is a book made, is intended to make understand the Vaishnavas, Gaudiya Vaishnavas, how they can regulate their life in Krishna consciousness, and also to prove to the smartest that we are the authority of Sampradaya, not just something bogus, that everything we do is based on Shastras. And because it's such an important book, Srila Goswami, who is the highest Vaishnava, but still, just to make the smartest accept his book, he says that I didn't write the book. It was written by Gopala Bhatta Goswami. And we know that definitely Gopala Bhatta Goswami, he made a very, very important contribution to the book. But basically, most of the quotations which are there, they are given by Gopala Bhatta Goswami. But still, Srila Goswami, he provided the mood, like we can have so many Shastri quotations, but then we can interpret them in different ways. Also in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Srila Rupa Goswami, he gives so many quotations from Shastras in order to substantiate, how to say, to prove that the 64 angas of devotional service. But then he says that those quotations, they can be interpreted in different ways. So therefore he gives the Bhakti explanation. Therefore Srila Goswami, he also does the same. And Jiva Goswami also, although those verses from Madhavacharya or Manujacharya or Shridhara Swami, sometimes they can be interpreted in different ways, not according to the Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva or whatever he wants to prove. But then still he gives them his own interpretations according to the darshana of Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya. So that's why his work was not unimportant. It's not just like Gopala Bhatta Goswami, he wrote the book, and Jiva Goswami, he didn't do anything substantial. No, his work was very, very important, because he gave the mood, he gave the, how to say, his bhakti was the clue which put together whatever was compiled by Gopala Bhatta Goswami. In the same way as Srila Goswami's bhakti was the clue which compiled, took together everything which was compiled by Gopala Bhatta Goswami. So this is very, very important. And then he says, Kritva paryalochyat haparyayam, Kritva paryalocya, he edited, and paryayam, he put it in the proper order. Paryari means the proper order. And then Kritva likhati jivakaha. And he says that jivaka, jiva means the living entity. It's a play of words. It's called slesha in Sanskrit. Play of words. And then jivaka means, jiva means living entity. And jivaka, this ka suffix in Sanskrit, means something very insignificant. Like we have danda. We have danda means the rod. And we have dandaka, small rod. So we have jiva and we have jivaka, small jivaka. So in this way he speaks about himself, not just I did such important work that I overshadowed, over-eclipsed the work of Gopala Bhatta Goswami. He says that basically I didn't do anything. This is the humility of Srila Jiva Goswami. Although he did very, very important job by writing Sandarbhas. That's the mood, because if you say like Krishna's Kaviraja Goswami, he offers his obeisances to Vrindavan Das Thakur in Chaitanya Charitamrita, and he says that I never wanted to overpass, how to say, to over eclipse the Vrindavan Das Thakur. He's my guru. I'm following his footsteps, but still I was asked by the Vaishnavas to write Chaitanya Charitamrita. That's why I'm doing that. So this is the humility of the Vaishnavas. In the same way, Jiva Goswami. And in Bhagavatam we see Bhushanam Danya Mulakam. Danya, humility, is the root cause of all success. So here we see that Jiva Goswami is not an arrogant scholar, something like imposter or whoever. He just follows the Shastras and Guru and his superiors. He gives credits to that whatever I have written is by mercy. And my job was very, very insignificant. And that's why we can see that by this humility, in Krishna's eyes, he gives all his empowerment, all his potency. Whenever devotee he is in such a humble mood, Krishna likes it. Mahaprabhu Bhakta Ganera Vairagya Pradhana Yardek Kaprita Kana Gaura Bhagavan. In Chaitanya it is said that the most important qualities of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, Mahaprabhu Bhakta Ganera, of the devotee of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is Vairagya Pradhana. That they make steps towards renunciation, not just external but internal. They give up pride, envy, kama, lobha, those anarthas. They want to become pure. They always pray to Krishna. Krishna, please help us to become your real devotees. And Yaradeki Pritikana Gaur Bhagavan. And whenever Lord Chaitanya he sees those steps of the Vaishnavas toward vairagya, renunciation, to humility, to respect Trinada Pisunishna, Taro Pisakishna, whenever he sees those steps, Pritakana Gaur Bhagavan, he's very much pleased and he gives his mercy to such Vaishnavas. So that's why we can see that Jiva Goswami, by his humility, he would definitely get most of the mercy of his spiritual master, Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, other Vaishnavas, of Gopala Bhatta Goswami, whom he didn't want to overpass. He was considering Gopala Bhatta Goswami his guru, his superior. He was praying his book written by Gopala Bhatta Goswami. So that's why by that mood, Jiva Goswami would definitely get the most mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That's why his book is worthy of reading. Wow, so many important things. And then he says, like it's the 6th verse, which is connected. We'll just speak just a little bit on. It speaks about the Atikara. It's part of the Anubandha Chatushtaya. We'll speak about that while describing the 8th and 9th verse, just after some time today. But in the 6th verse, Srila Jiva Goswami, he says, who can understand this book? What is the qualification for reading Sandarbhas? As we said, this is Mangala Shirana, not just to Tattva-sandarbha, but to all 6 Sandarbhas. And in Bhakti-sandarbha, he speaks about the Bhakti, about pure devotion, about the glories of Bhakti. He speaks about that Bhakti is higher than Jnana and Karma. He says about different kinds of Bhakti, Raganuga Bhakti, Vaidhi Bhakti, Prema Bhakti. Then in Priti-sandarbha, he speaks about Rasa, not just Rasa, about Madhurya Rasa and so on, as the highest relationships with the Supreme Lord. In Krishna-sandarbha, he speaks about different devotees. So that's why somebody who is envious, they wouldn't be able to understand him, what he says. They would start criticizing him, arguing with him, and he doesn't want it, because by doing so they will commit offenses and destroy their spiritual life. That's why Srila Jiva Goswami, out of compassion, he warns them. He says, this is the 6th verse, Yah Shri Krishna Padam Bhoja Bhajanaika Bhila Shavam Tanaiva Drishyatam Etat Anyasmai Shapathor Pitaha. Only those whose main desire is to worship the lotus feet of Lord Krishna should read this book. Everyone else I warn off with my curse. Wow, I curse everyone who wants to read Sandarbhas with some ulterior motives. Yeah, and basically, Gopinath Prabhu, he says in his commentary, in our translation we have said, whose main desire is to worship the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, instead of the more literal, whose only desire is to worship the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. You see, Sanskrit says, Yakshi Krishna Padam Bhoja Bhajana Eka Abhilashavan. Eka Abhilasha, the only desire to worship the lotus feet of Krishna. No other desires. And then we can see, okay, but am I up to the qualification to read the book? Because I have so many desires. I still have material desires. So does it mean that I shouldn't read the book? And that's why in Sarva-samvadini, Srila Jiva Goswami, he softens this condition. In Gopinath Prabhu writes, because Srila Jiva Goswami in Shri Sarva-samvadini, in his own comment on this verse, provides this interpretation, whose main desire is to worship the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. Like Anibilashata Shunyam, not Anibilasha Shunya, completely free from all desires other than to please Krishna. But Anibila Shita Shunyam, which means the one who has an intention to become free from all the desires other than to serve Krishna. So that's why this definition of pure bhakti, Bhakti Rasamrita 1:11, it comes to the both sadhana bhakti, bhava bhakti, and prema bhakti. Because on the level of sadhana bhakti, we're just the beginners, and we may have some material desires, but it doesn't disqualify us for practicing pure devotional service. So that's why Srila Jiva Goswami, he says that one who has the most main desire to serve Krishna, he might still have some desires, but it's not disqualification to read the book, because while reading Tattva-sandarbha, all those desires will go away. We become pure devotees of Krishna. And Jiva Goswami, he has this trust, this faith. Why? Because the book was written by the mercy of Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, who wanted to give us the opportunity to get to the level of the pure devotional service. So that's why he's just doing his job. And in the commentary, Gopinath Prabhu, he says that this is the mood of all the preachers. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 11:67, Idam te natapaskaya na bhaktaya kadachana na cha shushrusave vachyam na chamam abhyasuyati. This confidential knowledge should not be explained to those who are not austere or devoted or engaged in devotional service, not the one who is envious of me. And then Shripada, in his commentary, Shripada chooses to present Bhagavad Gita as it is, aimed at general audience, and had his disciples print and sell millions of copies in English and dozens of other languages. Shripada commented in this regard that the Vaishnavacharyas, representatives of the Supreme Lord, sometimes show even more mercy than Supreme Lord himself. Like in the Bhagavad Gita 3:29 purport, he says, men who are ignorant cannot appreciate activities in Krishna consciousness, and therefore Lord Krishna advises us not to disturb them and simply waste valuable time.
Is that you again?
Yes. But the devotees of the Lord are more kind than the Lord, because they understand the purpose of the Lord. Consequently, they undertake all kinds of risks, even to the point of approaching ignorant men to try to engage them in the acts of Krishna consciousness, which are absolutely necessary for the human beings. That's the mercy of Srila Jiva Goswami. He gives us an opportunity to even start devotional service. He prays for us. And only by the prayers of the devotees, by the mercy of the devotees, we can make progress in the spiritual life. Like in the first canto of Shrimad Bhagavatam, Maharaja Parikshit, he praises the Shukadeva Goswami. Yasham Smaranat Pumsam Sadeo Shrityanti Vai Grihat Kim Punar Darshana Sparsha Pada Shaucha Sanadi Vihi, in the 19th chapter, very end. He says that Yasham Smaranat, just by remembering such a great Vaishnavas as you, Sadyo, immediately, at once, Shutyanti Vai Griha, our houses, our hearts become pure. And Kim Punar, what to say of Darshana, if we can see you as you are, like take your darshan, Sparsha, touch you, Pada Shauchana, wash your lotus feet, take Charinamrita from your lotus feet, and Sparsha, Pada Shauchana Asana Adipih, and most important, to sit you in the asana, Vyasasana means, and ask you to speak about Krishna. So this is the how valuable is to associate with Vaishnavas. But then Srila Vishnu Thakur, in his commentary, he says that Yasham Smaranat is in Bhavi Prayoga in Sanskrit, which means that by remembering those great Vaishnavas, or when they remember us, our houses, our hearts become purified. So it's the hint that all the acharyas, although they had left this material world, but they are still praying. They are praying for us, for our spiritual progress, and by their prayers we make progress. So that's why Srila Jiva Goswami, he had written this book, Tattva-sandarbha. But then he watches who is reading his book, in which mood, and whenever he sees that we are reading in the proper mood, he likes it, and he gives us all his blessings. See, that's the opportunity we can get from the Tattva-sandarbha. And then in the 7th verse, he says, Atha, now, Athanatva mantra gurun bhagavatarthadan Shri Bhagavata-sandarbham vashmire kitum. Now I bow down to my initiating spiritual master and to my other spiritual masters who taught me the meaning of Shrimad Bhagavatam. And having thus bowed down, I proclaim my intent to write this encyclopedical work, Shri Bhagavata-sandarbha. As we said that Shat-sandarbha and Bhagavata-sandarbhas, they are synonyms. It's the same name. Shri Bhagavata-sandarbham is the name of the book. Sandarbham, Bhashmi Lekitum. Sandarbha is a kind of the literatures. Like we have different different divisions of the Vedic literatures. We have kavya, poetry. We have philosophical words, and also we have commentary, like different books. And our acharyas, they wrote both poetical works and they wrote philosophical works. They wrote some textbooks and so on. And Jiva Goswami, now he says to which division his book belongs. And he says, this is the Sandarbha. And Sandarbha is very, very rare because it's complicated to write. And Gopinath Prabhu, he gives the definition of Sandarbha. He says, the uncommon word Sandarbha, which appears in the title of this work and in the current verse as a descriptive term, has been defined as follows. Gudharthasya prakashascha sarokchih shesthata tatham nanartha vatvam vedyatvam sandarbha kathyate buddhaihi. Device call a composition a sandarbha when it shines light on difficult subjects, concentrates on essentials, excels in composition, imparts a variety of complex ideas, and expresses itself lucidly. Wow! It's very complicated, but it's understood. It's very concise, but still everything which is needed we have there. And also it describes very, very difficult subjects. It's not an easy read, It's a complicated book, philosophical book, but it's complicated but easy to understand. It's possible to understand it. It's concise, but everything you need is there. It's an optimum, we can write something very concise, but nobody can understand it, or very broad. But when you read it, the essence it's waters down. Like you take milk and you put water, and no milk is there anymore. So that's why you read it and you just try to understand. Okay, what is about? In Sandarbhas we don't have this. Everything is up to the point. It's just very concise, but not concise to the point that you won't be able to understand it. So that's the Sandarbha. And also the verb sandribh means straining together. And Gopinath Prabhu writes, in the Sandarbha, Srila Jiva has explained Srimad Bhagavatam not by commenting on each verse one after another, as normally done, like the continuous commentary on like first verse, second, third verse, like this. But by systematically presenting various topics, which he painstakingly develops by strung together relevant verses from the entire Bhagavatam, along with his own elucidations and those of other commentators. So that's the Sandarbha. And he says this, Atanatva mantra gurun, having offered obeisances to mantra guru. His mantra guru was Sri Rupa Goswami, his Diksha guru. And then Gurun Bhagavatar Hadan, and to those guru who gave him the meaning of Srimad Bhagavatam, who explained it. Like basically Sri Sanatana Goswami, who was the heart of all the Vaishnavas. Like we say that Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, they were Mathura Bhumau, the rulers of Mathura, the guardians of Bhakti. And Sri Sanatana Goswami, he was the elder brother of Sri Rupa Goswami and his spiritual master. Rupa Goswami, he was the spiritual master of Sri Jiva Goswami. So basically, Guru and Param Guru. And then Gurun Bhagavatar Hadan, to those gurus who gave me the meaning of Srimad Bhagavatam. And it's not something cheap. Like in the very beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, the sages on Nambisharani, they praise Shri Sutta Goswami. They say, Vedhatvam saumetat sarvam tatvata satanugrahat bruyuk snigdasa shishasya guravo guhyam apyuta. That they say that Vedhatvam saumetat sarvam, Samya, you are so dear to us because you know everything. Basically, they say that you are the Sarvagья, which means that one who knows everything. So you are very dear to us. Why? Because you were the Snigdha Sashishasya, the Snigdha disciple. Snigdha means the loving disciple who wanted to please his spiritual masters. And because of them, Tatanugrahat, you know everything Tatvataha, and Tatanugrahat, by their mercy. And Bruyuh Snigdha Guravo Guhyam Apyuta. Therefore, you can tell us the tattva, the knowledge which was given by your spiritual master, Guhyam Api, although it's very, very confidential, it's very concealed. Not everybody can understand it. So that's why we read in the 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Those who are in Bhaktivedanta, you are going to read it. How in the 4th chapter, Srila Shukadeva Goswami, at the very end, he says, speaks about the parampara of Srimad Bhagavatam. That this knowledge Lord Krishna, he gave to Lord Brahma, then to Narada Muni, to Srila Vyasadeva, and then I got it. So this is the authoritative knowledge. And then he says, and he, Sutta, he will speak it again to the sages of Nambisharanya. Why? Because he saw the attention of Srila Sutta Goswami, who was present there when Shukadeva Goswami was speaking Srimad Bhagavatam in the assembly of great sages to Maharaja Parikshit. Why? Because he saw the devotion of Sutta Goswami, and he understood that by this devotion, whatever he wanted to say, Srila Sutta Goswami, he took it in the heart, and that's why he's qualified to repeat it, to speak it to the sages of Nambisharanya, to speak again the same Srimad Bhagavatam. So in this way, it's very important to see that whatever we do is only by the mercy of our spiritual masters. Shri Tattva-sandarbham Gurun Bhagavata Arthadan. They gave him not just some academical knowledge, but the internal understanding of Srimad Bhagavatam. And it's not cheap. If you just externally know verses from Srimad Bhagavatam, memorize them, I know some devotees who know by heart all Srimad Bhagavatam. It's possible, although it's 11,000 verses. It's possible to understand, to learn Srimad Bhagavatam, but it doesn't mean that you really understand Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishna Tuli Bhagavata Vibhu Sarvashraya Pratishloki Pratyakshari Nana Arthahaya. Lord Chaitanya himself, he says it to Sri Sanatana Goswami while describing the Admarama Shloka in the Madhya Lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita. He says that Krishna Tuli Bhagavata, Srimad Bhagavatam is not different from Krishna. Vibhu is it has the same potencies, same opulences as Krishna has. Vibhu Sarvashraya. And then Pratishloki Pratyakshari Nana Arthahaya. In each and every verse, every syllable, Prati Akshara, Nana Arthahaya. So many meanings are there. So it will be very bold to say that I understood Srimad Bhagavatam. But then, Jiva Goswami, he says, by the mercy of my spiritual masters, I understood the internal meaning of Srimad Bhagavatam. And therefore, I read now, Srimad Bhagavata Sambandham Sandarpam Vashmi Lekitum. I'm going to write this book. Vashmi means that Vachami, Vladimir Pushkin, he says that I want to do that. I have a desire, but not just some independent desire. As we said that Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, they asked him to write this book, and he does it as an offering to their lotus feet, following their order. It's a yajna for him, like a sacrifice, and he does it as a service to Krishna and all the Vaishnavas. Therefore, this is his sankalpa. Sankalpa, in the commentary, Goparadhan Prabhu writes that a Brahmana who utters the sankalpa as the beginning of the fire sacrifice is obliged to adhere to his word by finishing the sacrifice at all costs. So, Jiva Goswami, he understands that it's not an easy job to, he understood the tattva inside by the mercy of Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. And he says that I have to express it so that it will be understood. And it's very, very difficult. And therefore he says that, but I'm doing as a service. Like in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, we also read how Gopkumara, when he tries to speak to this Mathura Brahmana about what he saw in Vrindavan and Vraja, he understands that it's not possible to understand. But still he's praying, Krishna, let him understand, let him accept it as truth. Like we read that when Gopkumar, he came to Vrindavan, he saw so many miracles. Adrishtam ashutam chasya asambhavyam vilokayat bahuprakaram ascharyam lakshashas tatra koti shaha. Adrishtam ashutam chasya. He saw the things which he had never heard. Ashutam or saw. Asambhavyam, impossible things. Vyalokayat bahuprakaram ascharyam. Wonders which bahuprakaram, so many wonders are there. Lakshashas tatra koti shaha. Millions and thousands of wonders. And then he says that if he is going to speak about that, nobody will believe him. But then he has the faith that by the mercy of Krishna, impossible things becomes possible. So that's why Srila Jiva Goswami, he understands this. It's not an easy job to express whatever he wants in his book. And therefore he, like Goparadhan writes that a Brahmana who utters this sankalpa at the beginning of fire sacrifice is obliged to adhere to his word by finishing the sacrifice at all costs. So Jiva Goswami, he's ready to die, but to write this book. This is the sankalpa he expresses in this 7th verse. You see? And he's doing for our sake, to help us to become devotees. This is his compassion. And by the prayers of such a great Vaishnavas, we can make some progress in our spiritual life. And then, it's not all. The 8th verse is the greatest jewel of all verses, because in there, in one verse, he speaks about what is there in whole Sandarbha. Sandarbha, Shat Sandarbha, it's thousands of verses, very complicated verses, topically arranged. And so many important conclusions are there. But then he puts everything in just one verse. And it's also part of the Mangala Charana is Vastu Nirdeshika. What is the object of his book? And we understand that this is the Bhagavan Shri Krishna. And it's a complicated verse. I'm not sure if I'm able to write it, to pronounce it properly. If anybody knows how to pronounce these huge verses, please help me. But I'll try my best. He says, Yasya brahmeti samyam pachitapi nigame yattichin matrasa tab amsho yasyam shakaih svarvibhavativa shayan evamayam pumamscha ekam yasyaiva rupam vilasiti paramavyomni narayanakyam sa Shri Krishna vidhatam svayamiha bhagavan prematat padabhajam. He says, in the abstract future of pure spiritual existence, the Supreme sometimes indeed goes in the Vedic text by the name Brahman. In the partial expansion, as the Lord of creation, that Supreme regulates the Maya potency of material nature and exerts his control through further personal expansions. By the single manifestation of his personality, called Narayana, that Supreme rules sovereign in the transcendental sky, beyond this universe. May that Supreme Shri Krishna, the original Godhead, be pleased to grant pure love to those in this world who worship his feet. Wow! We have both here Sambandha, Abhideya Prayojana. We have about Brahman. First part is Yasya Brahmeti Samgyam Kvachitapi Nigame Yati Chin Matra Sattap. Yasya Brahma Iti Samgyam. That which is known as Brahman. Brahma means the absolute truth. Kvachitapi Nigame Yati Chin Matra Sapyam. Which is being explained as just Chin Matra, completely transcendental. Like we said, Saesha Neti Neti Atma, which means that he is not that, not that, not that, not this. It's in a negative way. Or Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, that he is the spiritual existence. And Srila Jiva Goswami in his Sarva-samvadini, he explains the every word of his verse. He says, Kvachitapi, sometimes, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma Ityadao. The word sometimes indeed means statements like the absolute truth is real existence and consciousness, unlimited, from the Taittiriya Upanishad. And then he says, Api Shabdena, not just Kvachit, but Kvachit Api. Api Shabdena Tatraiva Brahmatvam Mukyam It Anitam. And from the word indeed, we can infer that these passages focus on the fact of being the absolute truth. It is not just some kind of spirituality, but it's the absolute spirituality, highest, completely transcendental. Then Amshakaich, Lilavatara Rupair, Gunavatara Rupaischa. Then he says that Amsho, Yesya Amshakaich Svar, that Yesya Amshakaich, by his expansions, his parts, Amsha means part. Mamai Vamsho Jivaloke, like Krishna says that living entities, they are the parts of him. But then he says, what does it mean? Doesn't understand Amshakaich. Does it mean that by living entities? No, he says, Amshakaich, Lilavatara Rupair, Gunavatara Rupaischa. The term personal expansions refers to those expansions who appear as pastime incarnations, and also to those who appear as incarnations presiding over the material modes. Lilavatara and Gunavatara, like Gunavataras, Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva. Then, Vibhavati Vashayan Eva Mayam Pumam Sha. And then Puman. Puman means, he explains, means Purusha. Sarvantaryami Paramatma Kyah. This is the Purusha, not just Puman. Puman means the person, the man. Like it's masculine in Sanskrit. Puman means the somebody who is masculine. It can be also a living entity, but then he explains. Puman Purusha, the controller. Sarvantaryami. The Antaryami means the super soul. Paramatma Akya, which is known as Paramatma. Then, what he's doing, Svar Vibhavati, Vashayan Evamayam Pomam Sha. Vashayan Evamayam, who is controlling Maya, who is not under the control of Maya. And we'll see in Tattva-sandarbha how Jiva Goswami, he speaks about the vision of Srila Vyasadeva. Apashat Purusham Purnam, Mayam Cha Tatapashayam. The Supreme Lord, he is not under the Maya's influence. He is completely transcendental to them, to it. Then, ekam yasyaiva rupam vilasati param abhyamni narayanakyam. Ekam Shri Krishna kyat anyam. Shri Krishna kyat anyat. Ekam. Also, his other manifestation, not Krishna. Because the next verse, Sakshi Krishna Vidhatam, that in the spiritual world, in Paravyomni, the word one means one which is different from that form of the Supreme Lord called Krishna. It's not Krishna, Narayana Akyam means that is the Narayana. Like in Vaikuntha Lokas, we have so many spiritual planets, and in each of these planets we have Supreme Lord Narayana presiding this planet. And it's not Krishna, it's his expansions also. But then he says, Narayana Kyamrupa Yasyaiva iti tasya Bhagavatva samya pi Shri Krishna Syaiva Svayam Bhagavatvam Darshatam. The word of whom, Yasya Eva, indicates that even though this form is equally the Lord, it's also Narayana. It's not somebody else than Krishna. But only Shri Krishna is the original Supreme Lord. Then Narayanakyam Rupam Padmottara Khandadi Pratipadyam Paramabhyomakyamaha Vaikuntha Thipa Shripati. The form known as Narayana is the husband of Shri and Lord of Mahavaikuntha, which is also known as the spiritual sky. His identity is verified in the Uttarakhanda of the Padma Purana and elsewhere too. So this is the Supreme Lord Narayana, not just some person who is named Narayana as Ajamila's son. Then he says, Swayam Bhagavan, Sashi Krishna Vidhatam Swayam Iha Bhagavan. He says that Swayam Bhagavan iti, Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam iti, Shri Bhagavata Pramanyam Iha iti Suchitam. The term Swayam Bhagavan, original personality of Godhead, hints that here in the Sandarbhas, the Bhagavatam is accepted as standard authority. For the Bhagavatam says, Krishna, however, is the original personality of Godhead. Then he also alludes to the Pramana Kanda of Tattva-sandarbha, in which he is going to establish that Srimad Bhagavatam is the highest Pramana, highest source of knowledge. And also the highest form of Supreme Lord is Krishnastu Bhagavan, Techam Shakala Pumsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, is the 1.3.28, the Paribhasha Sutra of Srimad Bhagavatam. That Krishna, the oldest incarnations which were listed in the from the beginning of the third chapter of the first canto, they are parts of the Supreme Lord. But Krishna is the Swayam Bhagavan, the original personality of Godhead. So that's why Bhagavatam is the highest book about the absolute truth, and Krishna is the highest form of the Supreme Lord. Then Shri Krishna, not just Krishna, but Shri Krishna. Ititat abhyapicharini svarupa shaktir apidarshita. The word Shri indicates his internal energy, who is never separated from him. Not just Krishna, but Shri Krishna means Krishna with Lakshmi Devi. And we know that in Brihad Gautamiya Tantra it is said, Devi Krishna Mai Prokta Rathika Paradaivata Sarva Lakshmi Mai Sarva Kanti Samohini Para. Shrimad Radharani, she is the Sarva Lakshmi Mai. She is the source of all Lakshmi Devis. So that's why Shri Krishna means not just Krishna, but Krishna with Shrimad Radharani. And that's what Jiva Goswami is going to explain in the Krishna-sandarbha, about different hierarchy of forms of the Supreme Lord and different hierarchy of devotees of the Lord. Shrimad Radharani, then queens of Dwaraka, then Lakshmis of Vaikuntha Loka, then the wives of the demigods and so on. So different devotees, they different expansions of Shrimad Radharani, different gopis. Everything will be there. So, and here it's just very, very concise. And then Iha, Jagati. Iha means that in the universe, Krishna is not just somewhere in the spiritual world. No, he comes here and he's next to us, and we are able to develop very, very close relationships with him. Which relationships? Tatpada bhajam, tatcharana ravindam bhajatam. The phrase for those who revere his feet means for those engaged in worshipping his lotus feet. And then he says, Sashi Krishna vidhatam swayam iha bhagavan prema tatpada bhajam. So in this he refers to the sadhana bhakti, which is going to be explained in the Bhakti-sandarbha in many in a great depth. So many kinds of bhakti, so many explanations are there, different grades of devotion, how devotion arises in the heart. So he's asking that Krishna engages all these living entities in this world, tatpada bhajan, in the worshipping to his lotus feet. And then Swayamaha Bhagavan Prema Tatpada Bhajan. And those who are worshipping him, why they worship him? Not to get something material in the world, but Tatpada, that Prema Bhajan, to get the Prema, the love of Godhead. That's the intention of the whole Sandarbhas. Not just to read it and get some intellectual pleasure or whatever, to get some material benefit. No. Jiva Goswami's intention is to give us love of Godhead. That's the highest goal of Sandarbhas. And he's praying, Vidhattam kurutam padurbhavayat ityartaha. And by asking, may he bestows, means may he make, or in other words, may he manifest. Then bhakti comes by mercy, not by our own efforts. And bhakti is given by Krishna through his devotees. So therefore, and written in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that one of the qualities of Bhava Bhakti is Sudurlabha. Which means that it's very difficult to achieve the Bhava Bhakti. Kriti-sadhya bhavet sathya bhavasa sathana bidha nitya siddhasya bhavasya prakatyam kriti-sadhyata. Our sadhana bhakti is meant to achieve the love of Godhead, which is already in our heart, and it has the potency. But then it's sudurlabha, which means that if you practice sadhana without this anukulena Krishna anushilnam, the desire to please Krishna, we won't be able to get it, just superficially or externally. We won't be able to get Bhava Bhakti. Will remain on the lower levels of devotional service. And then the second reason is that while giving Bhava and then Prema Bhakti, Krishna actually gives us the means to conquer himself. Although he is Ajita, nobody can conquer him, but he becomes Jita, conquered by this pure love of Godhead. So that's why he's not immediately gives it to us. So that's why it's not a chief things. And Jiva Goswami, he prays to Krishna, Krishna, please, for all those devotees, give them Prema Bhakti. That's the intention of Srila Jiva Goswami in the Sandarbhas. And then the last verse I'll read today. I will read it and maybe explain it tomorrow, because it's like, and we go back to the Mangalacharana and we'll see how everything is connected also. One more time, second pass, second time we'll go to the verses of Mangalacharana and give some other explanation based on what Jiva Goswami writes in the 9th verse. This is the prose, it's not a verse. Athaivam Suchitanam Shri Krishna Tadvachava Chikata Lakshana Sambandha Tat Bhajana Lakshana Vidheya Saparya Bhideya Tat Prema Lakshana Prayojana Kyanam Arthanam Nirnayaya Tavat Pramanam Nirniyate. This first part which we'll read today, and then the second part of the verse we'll read tomorrow. This verse, which verse? The 8th verse, previous verse, has alluded to various topics. Shri Krishna, and then Sambandha, or his relation between him and the words that describe him, and then what we are enjoined to do. or in other words, Abhideya. Then the recommended Abhideya, the recommended practice of worshipping him. And finally, Prayojana, the goal of love for him. But before we can elucidate these topics, we must first settle the question of pramana, the reliable means of ascertaining facts. So, Jiva Goswami, he says that in the previous verse, actually, it was Anubandha Chatushtaya. Anubandha Chatushtaya is the prerequisite for each philosophical work. It's reserved for those acharyas or devotees who are writing about philosophy, Anubandha Chatushtaya. And there are two different sets of what is Anubandha Chatushtaya. First one is written, I don't know the source of this verse, it's been quoted in many places, but Атикарича Самбандхо Вишеща Прайоджанам Атикам и Вакшатам Шастрадау Ту Чатуштаям. Anubandha Chatushtaya. Chatushtaya means four, and Anubandha means the prerequisites, or the things which has to be settled down. And this is Atikari, who is qualified to read the book. Then Sambandha, not just Sambandha as we understand, that Krishna, Bhagavan Sambandha, Bhakti Pridayam Prem Prayojana. No, it's different kind of Sambandha. It's technical term which means Vachya, Vachikata Sambandha, the connection between the Vachya, the object of the book, and then the words which are explaining this object. And it's very technical term. Like we have the book, and in the book, like for example, the book about Krishna, or say the textbook of English language. And then in the beginning we have this annotation of the book, announce, and we read that this is the textbook about the English language, which is unique. Why? Because it uses interactive technology, it uses many analogies, and it's very effective to help even the beginner to very quickly learn the English language. So this is the technology. And we have Vachya, means the topic of the book, means the English language, and Vachikata. Vachikata means the means, how to express this, how to explain, the methodology, the connection between the words or methods of understanding the object of the book. This is called Vachya, Vachikata Sambandha. And it's very, very technical terms. And then Srila Jiva Goswami, he speaks about that. And then we'll see in the second part of the Tattva-sandarbha, Prameya Khanda. Basically, whole Prameya Khanda is the Vachya, Vachikata Sambandha, which means that he ascertains what is the topic of the book, who is the Vachya, and what is the Vachikata, in which way the Shrimad Bhagavatam, Shrimad Bhagavatam explains the Bhagavan. Because Shrimad Bhagavatam is going to be the main source of knowledge for the Bhagavata-sandarbha. So that's why he has to see what is the methodology of Shrimad Bhagavatam to explain the Krishna as the Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is the second part. But before that, he has to make Shrimad Bhagavatam the highest authority. Why he is using Shrimad Bhagavatam as the main source of knowledge for the Sandarbhas? Why not Vedanta Sutras or Upanishads or some Smriti Shastras or Karma Kanda or original Vedas? Why Shrimad Bhagavatam? That's why he says that before we can elucidate these topics, we must first settle the question of pramana, the reliable means of ascertaining facts. So, and then he's going to start a very, very big discussion about what is the pratyaksha, namana, shabda, and so on, pramana, Vedas, Puranas, Vedanta Sutra, Shrimad Bhagavatam. This is the whole explanation. And this is the verse which is the beginning of this explanation. But then, as I said, that Anubandha Chatushtaya, we have different sets. What is there? Atikari, who is qualified to read this book. Then Sambandha, Vachikata Sambandha, the connection between the topic of the book and the methodology which is there in the book, how the book explains this topic. Then Vishaya, what is the topic of the book. And then prayojana. Prayojana means what you will get if you read the book. This is the first set, which is like traditional approach. But Srila Jiva Goswami, in his 9th verse, he's not using this verse which I quoted from the unknown source. He speaks it a little bit different. Vishaya means what is the object of the book, like very clear object, very distinctive object of the book. Then Sambandha is the Vacha and Vachika Sambandha, it's the same. Then Abhideya, what is the practical method by which one can understand the topic. And then Prayojana, what you can get if you practice this method, this Abhideya. And Abhideya comes from the Sanskrit word Abhidha. We have Abhidhana, which means the encyclopedia. Abhidhana means the book where you can get answer to all the questions. And Abhideya means spiritual master or shastras, they Abhidha, they tell you should do that. And then Abhideya means that you follow by what was said in the shastras. So this is the Abhideya. And Prayojana, Yuj means connect, and Prakrishta Rupena, Prayojana, fully connect, to get the highest understanding of what is the highest possible understanding from the book. And I think this is the Anubandha Chatushta, and as I said, it's very technical term, which is part of the especially philosophical treatises, philosophical words. You won't be able to see the Anubandha Chatushta in the poetical words. It's reserved only for the philosophical words. So that's why Jiva Goswami, because Sandarbhas is a highly philosophical word, according to the rules, he's obliged to put Anubandha Chatushta in the beginning of the book. So that's why this 8th verse actually is the Anubandha Chatushta. He speaks about the Vishaya, which is Krishna, Bhagavan, who manifests himself as Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan, and also different gradations of Bhagavan, Narayana or Krishna, Prashnasta Bhagavan Swayam. Then Bhagavan, along with his energies, his devotees, his supreme abode, his Lakshmi Devi, and so on. And then Abhideya, which is Bhakti, and then Prayojana, Prema Bhakti, which is the highest goal of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And everything Jiva Goswami he will explain later on in the Prameya Kanda. But now he starts this Pramana Kanda, which deals with the epistemology. What are the reliable sources of knowledge? So that's everything for today. Maybe we have a few minutes, maybe there are any questions for the devotees, I can try to answer them. Was it clear, dear devotees? Was it possible to understand? I was just very much inspired to while reading this Mangala Charana, because Jiva Goswami is not just offering obeisances, not just Ashirvada, but we could see the humility of Jiva Goswami. We could see his compassion to all of us. He's praying, please, offer obeisance to Rupa and Sanatana Goswami. You will get their mercy. Please read this book. Please try to give up all the ulterior desires. Please try to get Shraddha, that in the pure devotional service of Krishna. Then you will get the highest possible benefit from reading Tattva-sandarbha. So he's taking care of all of us. That's the mercy of Srila Jiva Goswami. Okay? Are there any questions? Is it okay? Is it understood? Yes, much Prabhupada Priya. Please. I cannot hear you. I'm very sorry, some construction work is going on, so just it's very loud. Can you hear me now? or you can speak. Who is the host? Okay, okay. Yes, Jai. You can imagine how we want to try to serve Krishna, but the host has muted us, and we cannot serve him. We cannot chant Hare Krishna. So we can do it only by the mercy of the devotees. So that's why mercy came. So please, what is your question, Mataji?
Yeah, thank you. I have a couple of questions. So the first one is in relation to text 6. I was wondering, Jiva Goswami is saying that he curses those who are not qualified. What exactly is the curse that he's giving there?
Actually, we know that Narada Muni, he also cursed Nalkovaram and Nigriva. Very soon they are going to chant the Madarashtakam, but that curse happened to be the bracelets of Narada Muni. So that's why Jiva Goswami, he just warns all those who have some ulterior desires not to commit offenses. That's why he says that it's better you not even to touch this book, because it will be worse for you. That's how I understand it.
But he doesn't say, I guess he doesn't specify what the curse is. You know, usually when you curse someone, I curse you that, and then you specify what the reaction is.
I'm sorry, I cannot hear you. It's very noisy in my room right now.
Usually when someone utters a curse, they say what the curse will be, like what the effects of the curse will be.
What the effects of the curse would be that they won't be able to study Tattva-sandarbha. They won't be able to get the most benefit from study of Tattva-sandarbha. They like he protects his book, and then it's the same which in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu Rupa Goswami, he also asks Sanatana Goswami to protect his book from Mimamsakas. Mimamsakas means those devotees who wants to argue, to try to understand it with some logic, some intelligence. He says that it's not possible. So that's why Srila Jiva Goswami, he understands that some people are going to try to study Sandarbhas with that not proper mood. But he wants to warn them that you want to get most benefit from this book. And moreover, you will commit offenses. So better for you not to try to start it. That's my understanding. Yes.
That's okay. Thank you.
Is that okay?
My other question is in relation to the text 9, because so it's referring back to, it seems that there are two different levels to Sambandha, Avideya, and Prayojana, and that one is referring to what was indicated in text 8, that Sambandha is our relationship with Krishna, Avideya is worshipping Krishna's lotus feet, and Prayojana is love for Krishna. But then it seems like text 9 is introducing another aspect of that, which is in terms of the content of the book. Like, the topic of the book, Avideya is like, what is the means, how are you going to do, what is the methodology for presenting the topic? And then Prayojana is, I guess, what will be the result of...
Yes, definitely. And tomorrow we'll go back and we'll see how this Anubandha Chatushtaya is there in the Mangalacharana. Like he says that this is Sandarbha, which means this is the topical arranged book based on Shrimad Bhagavatam. Then the methodology to understand this is Bhakti, by the mercy of spiritual master, mantra gurun cha bhagavatar hadan. Those devotees who can give you the understanding of Shrimad Bhagavatam. Then he speaks about the prema, which is the highest goal. So basically, yes, as you said, two levels: external level and then this technical level. Book, Vachya, Vachakata Sambandha, the connection between the topic of the book and the methodology, how to present the topic, how book provides the understanding of the topic of the book. It's there. And we'll go back tomorrow to Mangalacharana and see how Jiva Goswami he puts Anubandha Chatushtaya already in the Mangalacharana. Okay.
All right. Cool. Thank you.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Yes. Nilamani Prabhu, please. You have a hand raised also. Please unmute yourself.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So, Prabhu,
Wait, I cannot hear you, Prabhu, somehow. I'm sorry. You're unmuted, but still we cannot hear you.
Prabhu, in text 4 and 5, it talks about how this work is based on the work written by Gopal Bhatt Goswami. Is there a factual book, a work by Gopal Bhatt Goswami?
Yes, I've heard about that. It's called Bhagavata-sandarbha kadachas.
What that work is?
Yes. Some scholars say that it's called Bhagavata-sandarbha kadachas. Like we have Murari Gupta Kadacha or like Svarupadamdar Goswami Kadacha. But I've never saw this book. Maybe it's because Jiva Goswami, he's written Sandarbhas. That book written by Gopal Bhatta Goswami was not anymore necessary to remain. So that's why it existed, but now it's not existing. Yes. I've never heard that this book is there. Basically because Sandarbhas is already, they edited or paraphrase it, like you have a draft, and then whenever you write this, the whole book, you delete your draft because you don't need it anymore. So that's why the draft was there, and Jiva Goswami, he just rewrote it in Kranthavyukrantham Kanditam, that it was not edited, not properly arranged, and therefore he just removed the draft. That's what I've heard from the scholars, but I'm not sure if maybe somewhere this book is there, but I never saw it or never heard any manuscripts about the book written by Gopal Bhatta Goswami. Yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. And also Lakshmi Priti Mataji. I'm sorry, Lalita Priti Mai Mataji. Such a nice name. Yes. What is your question?
My question is like not very directly related to our topic today, but in text 4, Jiva Goswami is explaining that the Bhatta Sampradaya of South India, they also accepted this philosophy, like the Gopala Bhatta Goswami's father, Venkata Bhatta, so they accepted this. And even till today, this dynasty people exist in Sri Rangam. But I see that most of them, they do not wish to accept Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings, because just in right front of their house there is this Chaitanya Mat where Mahaprabhu has carved Jagannath Baldev Subhadra with his own hands. So my question is like, when their previous acharyas, like their previous descendants, their ancestors are accepting the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings, why don't they follow it? What may be the reasons?
Yes. You see, Atah Kalo Bhavishyati Chatvara Sampradaya Nam. In Kali Yuga there will be 4 Sampradayas. And we read in Navadvip Tham Mahatmya that all the acharyas of those 4 Sampradayas, they took darshan of Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And they wanted, okay, this is such a nice, you Supreme Lord, you came here, let us preach your teachings. And Lord Chaitanya, he told, no. You should preach what you preached before. That's why he prevented them for them. Because there are different sampradayas, different moods of devotees who wants to worship Lord Narayana or worship in some particular mood. And therefore there should be philosophy which are supporting this rasa or this mood of worship. Therefore, in Madhava Sampradaya or in the Ramanuja Sampradaya, they highly appreciate Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but they don't accept him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Don't accept him openly. But still, why is it? Because they have to exist. Otherwise, if they would accept teachings of Gaudiya Vaishnava, they would have abandoned their own teachings, their own acharyas. And it will be improper. So therefore, they exist, they continue follow their philosophy, their mood, but according, like, I remember the huge yatra of Srila Raghunath Swami Maharaj, 2005, 2010, we came to Sri Rangam, and they were accepting in such a great respect as the Vaishnavas. They don't say that we are bogus sampradaya. They accept us, but still they follow their own line because it should be there. It's one of the 4 authoritative sampradayas, and there are people who want to worship Krishna in this particular mood. So that's why sampradaya is there. You see?
Thank you, Prabhu.
Is it okay, Mataji? Okay. Yes, Advaita Krishna Prabhu, please.
Hare Krishna, just one clarification on that issue of the Sampradaya from the Sri Sampradayas in the south. Is it that they know Lord Chaitanya is a Supreme Personality of Godhead, but they just choose not to follow him, or they don't accept him as the Supreme Lord?
Officially they don't accept him as the Supreme Lord. Officially. Unofficially, as I understand, many of them, they highly appreciate him. Maybe like I know in the Orthodox Church, for example, there are some priests who externally they are Orthodox Christians, but internally they read Bhagavad Gita, they accept the philosophy. So in this way, this is my understanding. On the personal level, they can accept Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but officially they cannot do that because it would go against their philosophy. Like that.
Because sometimes, like in our case, we may accept such and such avatars are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but we don't follow. We follow Lord Krishna and Radha Krishna, and we follow Lord Chaitanya. But
Yes, we know that Lord Narayana or Lord Ramachandra they are Supreme Personalities for Godhead. But the Bhakti they manifested is not the highest level of Bhakti. We try to follow the Vraja Bhakti, which is given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That's our line, that's our main line. So therefore, just parallel lines, different sampradayas, different moods. And we shouldn't criticize them that they don't accept Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or blame them or curse them. Okay, they want to do that. But Raso Varjam Raso Pisya Param Drishtani Vartate. If they, Prabhupada Saraswati, who was from the Sri Sampradaya originally, he was the sannyasi in Sri Sampradaya, and then he's written this Sri Chaitanya Chandramritam, which is a fanatical word of the follower of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Basically, he curses everyone who is not accepting Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But Jiva Goswami, he never does it in Sandarbhas because it's like he is the official representative of the Sampradaya. As we said that one of the features of Jiva Goswami, that he was the genuine Acharya who was dealing with the external world to make sure that we would be accepted by the different Vaishnavas or different scholars as the bona fide Sampradaya. That's why he cannot do that in the Sandarbhas. Although internally he's feeling like that. See?
Just one clarification. I was reading Sandarbha from Swami for some time, some considerable time, and I just couldn't understand one thing, and if you can clarify it for me. And he says in relationship to the text number 1, said this is a meaning, the meaning of Sambandha as one of the 4 Anubandhas. Can you explain that to me? Anubandhan?
Yes, this Anubandha
Four Anubandhans, and what's that?
Yes, four Anubandhas, it's called Anubandha Chatushtaya. That's what I said. And yes, this is the two different varieties of Anubandha Chatushtaya. And I will explain it more tomorrow. How, like, what is this and how it is there in this 9th verse and 8th verse, and also in the Mangala Charana. I'll speak about that later. So this is the Anubandha Chatushtaya. It's 4 Anubandhas like that.
Thank you.
Yes, and also one important detail I forget to mention, that although Srila Jiva Goswami, he in his Mangala Charana, he doesn't say anything about Madhvacharya, although officially we are part of the Madhva Sampradaya. But he just not saying anything. But Srila Baladevi Pushana, in his Mangala Charana, he offers his obeisances to Ananda Tirtha of Madhvacharya, saying that he's explaining this Sandarbhas according to the teachings of Madhvacharya. Wow! So he makes a connection between Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya and our official affiliation to Madhva Sampradaya.
But isn't later on actually?
Yes.
Goswami does talk about the Madhvacharya, no?
Yes. He speaks.
Not in his invocation.
Yes. He speaks in the Tattva-sandarbha in the 27th of Nisheda, I think, about what are the relationships with the Madhvacharya and Madhvacharya. But it's just on the equal level. Yes, Madhvacharya we follow, Ramanujacharya we follow, not exclusive that we are part of the Madhva Sampradaya. It's not there, you see. That's why Baladev Pushana, because he needed to do that, in his commentary to Tattva-sandarbha, he makes this connection between Jiva Goswami Sandarbhas and teachings of Madhvacharya. And it's another level of complication which is there in the Sandarbhas. Okay. Thank you. Yes. And maybe last question for today, Mataji Prabhupada Priya again.
Hare Krishna, we're just on the same point of
Yes,
devotees
please.
from other sampradayas appreciating Lord Chaitanya but not becoming Gaudiya Vaishnavas. I was thinking that it could be somewhat analogous to ISKCON devotees. So say there's an ISKCON devotee who appreciates a devotee who is outside of ISKCON. You know, that person's a pure devotee.
Gaudiya Math, for example, right?
Yeah, like there are some devotees who, you know, they preach a lot, their preaching is inspiring, but they're not going to leave ISKCON, you know, and also they're also not going to hear a lot or, you know, talk about that person, you know, but they have an appreciation, but it's just kind of like quiet, you know, it's just something that they don't talk about, they don't show, they're not indulgent.
Yes, they appreciate, for example, Srila Prabhupada as the great Vaishnava, as the Acharya, but they are not exclusive devotee to Srila Prabhupada, like that. So, and then we can see that we shouldn't force them to accept Srila Prabhupada. But Rasovarjam, Rasopesya, if we give them the understanding who Srila Prabhupada is, if they get the taste of Srila Prabhupada's mercy, then they can understand, yes, it's not just one of the acharyas, it's very special acharya. But we shouldn't just try to criticize them, blame them. It should be internal. We should share our devotion, our taste of serving Srila Prabhupada, the greatness of mercy of Srila Prabhupada we had received from him. Then they will more appreciate him, like that.
Prabhuji, is the same topic again. Is there a lila where Lord Chaitanya actually talks about this as a pastime or some instruction? Lord Chaitanya tells them, no, just follow your line or for you?
Yes, it's in the Navadip Dham Mahatmya by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And this is the book, he describes the meeting of Lord Chaitanya with all the four acharyas of the four sampradayas in details. And then actually somebody may say that, yes, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, the sentimental acharya of this Gaudiya Sampradaya, he concocted this meeting, but then Bhaktivinoda Thakur actually, he quotes, he uses this Navadip Dham Mahatmya, he bases it on the some parts of the Puranas, some descriptions. He not concocted it, he not written it himself. Like Srila Rupa Goswami, he wrote this Lalita Madhava Vidaga Madhava. This is his own compositions. But if you see that he's quoting parts of Brahma Vaivarta Purana, Padma Purana, Skanda Purana also, some rare Puranas, rare descriptions about the Harivamsha Purana, everything which is describing the pastimes of Krishna and Srimati Radharani, but he just arranged them in a logical way, like continuous way. So in the same way, our acharyas, they use the shastras as the basis. But then, because shastras sometimes they hid the original meaning of the topics, by their anubhava, by revelation, they can provide the original meaning of the shastras by the devotions. Jiva Goswami, he will quote this verse from in the Sandarbhas. Yuganten Hartitam Vidam Sitihasam Maharshanaha Lephere Tapasa Purvam Anugnatah Swayam Bhuva. That whenever some parts of the Vedic knowledge become lost or hidden, Lord Brahma or some acharyas, they they give order to the great saintly persons, Maharshanaha, and Lephere Tapasa Purvam, and by performing austerities, performing devotional service, they can receive these lost parts of the Vedic literatures in their hearts. So that's why Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is one of the Vedic rishis who had received the internal meaning of the Shastras in his heart. That's why his contribution, whatever he wrote, is actually the truth. But not everybody will accept it. So that's why in this discussion between Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and Gopinath Acharya, both of them they quote Shastras to prove whether Lord Chaitanya is Supreme Personality of Godhead or just some saintly person. And then Gopinath Acharya he says, only if you receive the mercy of Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then you can understand who he is. And then when he's got the mercy of Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he understood, okay, wow, it's the Supreme Lord. That's the only way. So therefore, we can accept our acharyas like the greatness of Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, only when they get mercy of those acharyas, and no other way. So that's why if somebody criticizes Srila Prabhupada or Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, he won't accept it also, what they've written. But if you serve them, if you please them, then we can understand, yes, what they've written is the truth, and then we can understand even more why is it truth. We can find the references for the Shastras, some logical proof and so on. And then we can say, yes, whatever Srila Prabhupada wrote in his books is very, very authoritative. It's not just some concoction. Whatever Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati or Bhaktivinoda Thakur, but that comes not by scholarships. It comes only by the mercy, which we have to receive from this Acharya, our spiritual masters. That's the only way. Okay? Okay. Thank you very much, dear devotees. I'm very sorry that we again late in our class. So tomorrow we'll continue the study of Tattva-sandarbha and we'll start this Pramana Kanda, the topic which is about what is the source of reliable knowledge, how we can understand things as they are. Okay? So see you tomorrow. Grantaraj Shri Tattva-sandarbha ki jai, Srila Jiva Goswami Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Saveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari. So, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.